So for this question number 8, this is a percent question. So you want to know your percent formula. The first thing you have to know that a percent is, it basically it's a fraction, a part to whole fraction, and you want that denominator to become per 100. So you want to change the denominator to 100, or put our hundredths, a decimal, a fraction, whichever, and that'll be your percentage. That's all percent is. So you have to make sure you remember the formula for percent. The formula percent is going to be part over whole, so part divided by a whole. So if you're trying to find the percent, you're going to take the part, put it over the whole, and divide it, change it to a decimal, and then you can change the decimal to a percentage. But if you have to find the part, or if you have to find the whole, which in this case we have to do that, you want to set it equivalent to, you want to make an equivalent ratio, equivalent fraction that's equivalent to the part percent. So the numerator is going to be the part percent, and the denominator is going to be the whole percent. The whole is always going to be 100, and it's going to be equivalent to the whole in the ratio. So this side represents the ratio, and this side represents the percent. So I'm going to come to my question. I'm going to put my numbers in. It says 18% of the weight of the cereal is raisins. 18%. So I'm going to put 18% on my percent side. And then I'm going to bring my equal sign down. I'm not just writing the formula, I'm using the formula. So I have 18%. Now this 18 represents raisins, so I'm going to put an R right there, because I need raisins to be equivalent to raisins, and I need the whole to be equivalent to the whole box. So I'm going to put my line here, and it says the cereal weighs 15 ounces. So the cereal weighs 15 ounces. So we have to figure out, do we put that in the part position of our formula, or do we put it in the whole position of our formula? Well, since the cereal weighs, and we're not talking about the raisins, we're talking about the whole box of cereal, that's going to be the whole, which is going to go in the denominator. And then the question that we want to answer, what is the weight of the raisin? So this side represents weight. This is the whole weight, and in the numerator, this is going to be the weight that's equivalent to raisins, because we started with raisins, so it's going to be equivalent to raisins. Now, if you get the value of x, then you'll have the answer to the question. So you can solve for the variable. Your variable is in the numerator. You can get the variable x on one side of the equal sign by itself. Make sure it's in the numerator by multiplying both sides by 15 to get x on one side, on the left side by itself. Or you can use equivalent ratios, because there's the equal sign in the middle. So you have to figure out, how do I start with 15 and end up with 100? You can use division to figure that out, and you want to know, pay attention to the direction that you're going. So let's do, so 15, let me see, 15 divided by 100, 100 goes into 15 0 times, add a decimal point here, and we can add, subtract. We have 15, then you add a 0, bring it down. 100 goes into 150 one time. I know it's going to be 15. 1 times 100 is 100. And you put a 5, put a 0. Then you add a 0 and bring it down. And then 100 goes into 500 5 times. 5 times 100 is 500. So since 15 divided by 100 gave me 1500s, I know that I can multiply. Going this way, we're dividing. Divided by 15. And going this way, 100, 1500s. So 15 divided by 1500s is going to give me 100. But 100 times, you have to understand the relationship between multiplication and division. 100 times 1500s is going to give you 15. So since we need to go from the percent side over here to the ratio side, we're going to start here, and going this way we have to multiply. You see the multiplication sign? We have to multiply. We're going this way. We're multiplying by 1500s to get to 15. So up here we need to multiply by 1500s to get to x. So it says 18 times 1500s. 18 times 1500s is going to give us the value of x. You multiply decimals the same way you multiply whole numbers. So you have 5 times 8, that's 40. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. You put a 0 as a placeholder because you're moving to a different place value. And then you do 1 times 8, which is 8. You just ignore the decimal point, and 1 times 1 is 1. And then you go ahead and add that up. 0 plus 0 is 0. 9 plus 8 is 17. And then you have 1 plus 1 is 2. And then you put your decimal point back in. So we have our first factor is already a whole number, so we don't need to move a decimal point there because the decimal point is already in the back. Our second factor, 1500s, we need to move the decimal point 2 times to make it a whole number. You add the placement of your decimals, and then you go and put your decimal point back into the product. So x is equivalent to $2.70. It's just equivalent ratios. Going one way, you're going to be dividing by the number, and going the other way, you're going to be multiplying by the number. And whenever you're dealing with the denominator, you want to start with this, not with the 100. You want to start with this and divide by 100 to see how you go from here to here. And that's it. You have your answer. Now, you set up the second one the same way, so make sure let's do the second part. So here is part B. Now this one is different. For part B, you do not need to use 15 ounces. I repeat, you do not need to use 15 ounces. This is part B. So you have your part over whole is equal to part percent over whole percent. So remember your formula. And then you save 96% or $96. So this side is going to represent money instead of cereal. So this part is just from part A. And then 96% of the coupon is equivalent to 30%. So I'm going to put 96% is equivalent to 30 per 100. So now this 30% represents the coupon, right? And equivalent to that is going to be the money that's equivalent to that coupon. So I know that everything is going to be smooth here. And I need to figure out the denominator now in this case. Now, if you choose to solve for the variable, you have to make sure your variable is in the numerator before you start moving things around. Or you can move the variable or so forth. But you have to make sure your variable is in the numerator if you use that method. I'm going to use equivalent ratio. So what is the denominator? What is the denominator? The whole, because it says what is the original price? Original price is going to be the whole box of cereal. What is the original price? So the original price is equivalent to 100. So I have to figure out, okay, how do I start with 96? You always want to start away from your percent. How do I start with 96 and end up with 30? That's going to tell me what I need to do in my denominator. Well, obviously I'm going to multiply. How am I going to get my whole? So what you have to do is start with 9600s and divide it by 30. 9600s divided by 30 will give you the number that you need to multiply by to get to 30. Let's erase this. 30 times what number? So let's do that over here. So we have 9600s divided by 30. Our divisor is already a whole number, so I'm going to move my decimal point from the dividend to the quotient. 30 goes into 0 times. 30 goes into 9 0 times. So I'm going to put my 0 right here and bring down my 9. Then I'm going to bring down my 6. 30 goes into 96 3 times, because 3 times 3 is 9. Add the 0, you have 90. Then I have a 6, add my 0, bring it down. 30 goes into 60. 2 whole times 2 times 30 is 60. Boom. So if I start with 9600s and divide it by 0 and 3200s, I'm going to get to 30. But going the other way, since the multiplication and division works inversely, we have to multiply. So that means that 30 times 32 hundredths is equivalent to 96 hundredths. So you have to recognize which direction am I going to get to my unknown value. So I want to start here. So that means I need to go from right to left. I need to go from the right to the left. So at the top, going from the right to the left, I have to start with 30 and multiply it. I have to multiply it by 32. It's 32 thousandths. 32 thousandths. So now, since I have to go from the right to the left, so going from the right to the left, I need to multiply by 32 thousandths. Going from the left to the right, I need to divide by 32 thousandths. So you have to know which direction you're going. I'm going from right, trying to figure out this number on the left. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to multiply by 32 thousandths. And then since I'm multiplying by a power of 10, so it's 32 thousandths times 100, I can just move my decimal point. There's no need to do all of that hard work. I'm going to move my decimal point 2 times to the right, since 100 have 2 zeros and decimals work with the power of 10. So I have 1, 2. So that's going to put a decimal point between 3 and 2, and I have my answer. Change it to money if you put a 0 on the end. $3.20 is the whole price for the whole box of cereal. So remember, your percent formula is just an equivalent ratio. If you know that formula, you know how to set it up, you can figure out the answer.